Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with it's not quite a review, but sort of a chat/reviewish thing of this, which is still kicking around. Evgeny Kissin, the complete RCA and Sony classical album collection, which is 25 CDs. Jed Disler reviewed this for ClassicsToday.com. If you're an insider member, and you should be, then you can look at that review with sound clips and things like that. Well, sound clip anyway. So it's a very thorough consideration of everything in here. And there are plenty of reviews that you can read of individual titles by Jed and me and others. Kissin is a wonderful pianist. He really is. This is not all great, as you might expect for 25 CDs, but it's interesting to think about where he is now, because he's 53, exactly 10 years younger than I am. When he popped up as a prodigy, as a young pianist, everybody was pushing him as the greatest thing since sliced bread. I mean, he was part of that Russian piano school, and he was a young and exciting guy. And I remember meeting him for the first time. I actually only met him once. He was traveling with, he had this entourage of elderly Russian ladies dressed in black. It was like his mother and his grandmother and his aunt and his, I don't know what else. Anyway, and I felt bad for him. I really did. I felt sorry for him, because here's this young, incredibly gifted talent who was, sort of trapped in the prodigy, mill, where you run around, you give concerts, you do everything, you have no life. It really saddened me. And now, here he is at 53. He's bounced around from label to label. He was at Sony. He was at first RCA, then at Sony, and then Deutsche Grammophon, and he's been on EMI, and I don't know what he's doing now, to be honest with you. I mean, in terms of recordings and labels and concertizing, because I don't pay attention to artists at all. If a record comes my way, okay, there it is. But in terms of following their careers, I can't think of anything more boring. It doesn't interest me a bit. So I know he's teaching. I believe he's teaching. And he has Israeli citizenship and various other citizenships. And he writes Yiddish poetry. And Yiddish, he's very interested in the Yiddish language and Yiddish culture. And he's heavily involved in that, which I think is great, because I think everybody needs a hobby. You've got to have something else to do with your life. Because if you don't, then you become very, one note, very fixated on one thing. And what's interesting for me, and we're going to go through this box and we'll see what it is and how much we like it and whatever. But what really interests me is the fact that he's still in his middle age. He's mid 50s, early 50s, and he's such a gifted guy. I mean, there's still a possibility, that some of the immaturity that we may have heard here, some of the tendency to poke and pick at the music, might be replaced by the wisdom of older age, of maturity. We don't know. I mean, and the record industry is so messed up now, it's hard to tell. But he survived. He survived the prodigy bit, and he's now a serious artist. He was always a serious artist, but a more mature artist. And I really wonder if he revisits some of this repertoire, if he does some other things, what we're going to hear in the next few decades. I'm very, very curious. So let's see what's in here, and we can just sort of consider, because his range of repertoire was very, very broad, very, very wide. He really had a wonderful selection of things here. So let's start here. I can look at the booklet. Track listing. Yay! Track listing, but no notes. No notes whatsoever. Not a word about him. And these are original covers in case you care. Ta-da! Here's the funny thing. This is not complete, at least as far as RCA's releases were concerned, because RCA initially licensed some stuff from Melodia, you may recall, and they released his Chopin piano concertos. They recorded live when he was 12, and which were amazing for a 12-year-old, and his Prokofiev Third Concerto, which was an excellent performance with other Prokofiev stuff. Those are not in here because the license expired. We've seen that a lot lately, haven't we? When these boxes come out and they purport to be the complete artist X on label Y, but label Y actually supplemented some of their titles with things from other labels, especially at the beginning when they wanted to make a splash. And so they needed to have material to release more quickly and less expensively than initially, the initial actual activity for that label would warrant. So they borrowed stuff, and that's no longer here. So anyway, here we start. We start with Rachmaninoff, Second Piano Concerto with the London Symphony and Gergiev. It's very, very fine. And some of the Etude Tableau. Let's see, Opus 39. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 9. Like so many Russian pianists doing Russian repertoire, he picks and chooses. It's interesting. Western pianists will do complete, Opus 39, everything's complete, everything has to be complete. But the Russians, they pick what they want. That's really kind of a good thing to do. Richter was famous with that. He'd do half a Chopin prelude or, 2/3 of a sonata. Anyway, so there's that. Then we've got Haydn, his Piano Concerto in D with Spivakov and the Moscow Virtuosi. Quite lovely. And he's done some Haydn. He has, and I'm proud of him for that. It's very good, actually. Shostakovich Concerto No. 1. Fine performance, just exciting and brash. And the Prokofiev Overture on Hebrew Themes. So those are two lovely discs. Then we have Kissin in Tokyo. Yes, he's hanging out in Tokyo, which is always good because the audiences are very quiet. And this is a very interesting program. You've got Rachmaninoff stuff, Prokofiev Sonata No. 6, Liszt, some goodies by Liszt, some Chopin, Hugis, Scriabin Etude, and encores. One by Sakunosuke Koyama. That was his bow to the local audience, and some traditional pieces, which are, okay, fine. It's kind of interesting. A nice recital. A very nice recital. Schumann, the variations, the Abegg variations. These are very, very good. Excellent. And the symphonic etudes are marvelous. He does a wonderful symphonic etudes. He really does. They're virtuosic and exciting, and it's lots of fun. Prokofiev, Sonata No. 6. Again, this is the Carnegie Hall debut concert. Liszt, Liebestraum No. 3, Rhapsody Espagnole, the C-sharp minor waltz by Chopin. Liszt, Transcendental Etude No. 10. Schumann, Liszt, Widmung, and Prokofiev Etude in C minor. That was a famous debut, and people, crowed over it. I think it's a very good recital. It really is. Mozart, Piano Concerto No. 20. And No. 12, the Rondo in D. This is also a Spivakov of the Virtuosi. They're good. They're not going to make me crazy, but they're good. Rachmaninoff, Piano Concerto No. 3 with Boston and Ozawa. Jed liked this. I like it. He found it to be, one of the more sensitive and lyrical performances. It's not a barnstorming virtuoso effusion, and I have no problem with it, particularly because the finale does keep moving. It really does. So that's fine. It's a beautiful performance. Then a couple of song transcriptions, and it's a very nice album. Better than people have said, I think. It was kind of dismissed because I think it wasn't just noisy enough when it came out. But but pianist and conductor are on one page with this performance, and it's lovely. Schumann Piano Concerto, okay, with Giulini and the Vienna Phil. Well, Giulini's okay. Kissin's not fabulous. It's nothing special. It really isn't. They tried, Sony, right? Whenever you want something profound, you haul out Giulini and have him conduct it. But it didn't always come off wonderfully. And let's see, some Schubert Liszt transcriptions, the Trout and the Earl Koenig, some Grieg lyric pieces, and Liszt Soirée de Vienne, Valse Caprice No. 6, first version. Oh, it's so complicated. That's done very nicely. Let's see, Chopin. Okay, lots of Chopin. Chopin waltzes and nocturnes and excerpt things, mazurkas and the Piano Sonata No. 3. His Chopin is hit and miss. He can do wonderful things in Chopin, but sometimes he gets, well, you might call it too Chopin-esque. That sort of super uber rubato, slushy, manipulative. You wish you would just take a deep breath, sit back, and play it simply. And he's a wonderful artist. He can do anything. So That's how I feel about his Chopin generally, and we'll have some more details in the future. Haydn, Piano Sonata in A. Oh, this is nice. Very, very nice. Piano Sonata in E flat major, the big one. Oh, that's wonderful. That's a good performance. And the Schubert Sonata in A minor, which is very good. And the Schubert Tausig Military March for 4 hands. I guess it's only played with 2 hands, or he overdubbed it or something. I don't know what he did. That's a good disc. His Schumann Fantasy in C is excellent. That's one of his great recordings. It's a marvelous performance. And some excerpts from the Liszt Transcendental Etudes, which are appropriately transcendental. Beethoven, Piano Concertos 2 and 5. There's The Emperor with the Philharmonia and James Levine. Very, very good. And it's not in my list of like the top emperors, but it could have been. It's a very good emperor, and it made Jed Disler's list of five underrated emperor concerti, which are on his podcast, Piano Maven, so you can go hear Jed talk about them. But this is on that list, and deservedly so. It's very fine. Beethoven, the Moonlight Sonata, Franck, Prelude, Chorale, and Fugue. Now that's interesting, isn't it? And the Brahms Paganini Variations. This is a terrific disc. It really is. I mean, there may be people who have their favorites for the Moonlight Sonata, but the Brahms Paganini Variations are just slamming. And the Franck, well, it's wonderful that he does it, and he does it beautifully. So that's great. Then we've got Bach Busoni, the Chaconne in D minor. We all know that from the violin thing. And the Beethoven Rondo in G, and the Rondo a Capriccio, the Rage over a Lost Penny, and Schumann's Kreisleriana. Well, I like the Bach Busoni, and I like the Beethoven stuff. The Schumann has its pluses and minuses, let's just say. More Chopin, the Ballades, yes, all 4 of them. Those are well done. Those are pretty well done. The Berceuse, the Barcarolle, the Scherzo number 4. It's actually a very nice Chopin program. It's big, meaty, beefy, large-scale Chopin. I think sometimes he's better at the bigger things than at the little ones where he tends to get fussy. Chopin Preludes. Okay, well, see, the Preludes don't do it for me so much. They're good. I mean, they're decent, but, you listen to them, you have your favorite version of it. If you don't know them, you'll enjoy it. If you do know them, you'll hear it. You'll say, I wish he'd done this, or I didn't like that. People will pick and whatever. Second Piano Sonata. First 2 movements, as Jed pointed out, dynamite. Last 2, well, I mean, the last one is okay, because what could you do with it? You just, play a lot of chromatic octaves and pedal very carefully. And, the Funeral March is rather dull, rather drab. Sorry. Bach Busoni, Toccata, Adagio, and Fugue. Glinka arranged Balakirev of the Lark, and Pictures at an Exhibition. This is a fine disc. It really is. It's a good disc. It's big and bold and exciting, and the Bach Busoni stuff he does very, very well. He really does. I'm glad he does that, and he mixes it with like Mussorgsky, which makes it kind of interesting. I think it's a nifty program. Schumann Sonata number 1. Well, that's very good. That's an exciting performance. And Carnival. Well, everyone has their favorite carnivals, and this is not mine. But then again, I don't really like Carnival, so that's. Why should I even talk about it? There you go. No, I do. I know what the good ones are, sort of, kind of, but that one didn't do it for me. Brahms, Sonata in F minor, Opus 5. An exciting performance. I enjoyed it. 5 Hungarian dances. Yeah. And let's see what else. Oh, and the Intermezzo, Opus 76, and the Capriccio from Opus 76. Very, very good disc. Schubert, Piano Sonata in B flat. Puh, terrible. One of his worst. He just manipulates and massages and picks and pokes, and nothing ever happens, and it's really rather depressing. Schubert Liszt, some song transcriptions. Well, those are nice. And the Mephisto Waltz number 1. Well, what's not to love? It's a very good Mephisto Waltz number 1. CD 22, Scriabin, 5 Preludes, Opus 15. The Sonata number 3, that's nice. I enjoyed that. I reviewed this, I think, when it originally came out. Yeah, I did. And the Mettner Sonata Reminiscenza, which is a beautiful work, very underplayed. And Stravinsky's 3 movements from Petrushka. Jed took exception to the 3 movements from Petrushka because he felt that they were a little bit too affettuoso for that mechanical Stravinsky thing. But I think they're really well played, and I don't mind a little slushing around the folk tunes. It didn't bother me as much as it did Jed. So there you go. Schubert, Fantasy in F minor, Allegro Lebensstürme, and the Grand Duo, and Military March Number 1. This is his four-hand recital with James Levine, and it's fabulous. It's really fabulous. It may be that having Levine on hand kept him a little more strict in terms of like tempo and things, because they have to coordinate with each other. It's a wonderful, wonderful Schubert recital. Really first rate. 2 discs. And lastly, Chopin, some polonaises and impromptus, and the fantasy impromptu in C sharp minor, and a bunch of other things. And like I said, his Chopin is hit and miss. You can listen and decide which polonaises hit, which ones miss. That's the 25 discs. It is a rich and rather nicely varied selection of things. I mean, concertos by Beethoven and Rachmaninoff and Schumann. Well, that one's not so hot, but the others are all very good. And then a lot of solo recital stuff. Kissin is a major artist. Let's not kid ourselves. And I enjoyed this box. I mean, it's a box worth having. I have all the single discs anyway, but the fact that it's in a box is great. The fact that it's still available is great. And as I said at the beginning of this chat, I really look forward to seeing what happens in his later career. If it continues to develop, if he continues to evolve as an artist, if he gives up and keeps writing Yiddish poetry and short stories, Shalom Aleichem, needs a successor, whatever. He should be happy. He should be well. He's given us the gift of 25 discs of music, plus other stuff on EMI and Deutsche Grammophon, all of which is well worth exploring. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.